Sean Easton says, he got 3 questions, so we'll go with the first one. Do you guys think that anime and Eastern cartoons have become popular due to the decline in quality in Western shows?
Yes. Wow, that was fast. It's hard to argue that American comic books didn't shape Western culture to the way it is today. Stories of great heroes fighting off villains for our time. They inspire us to be better and overcome struggles within our everyday life from external forces. Yet despite nearly 7 years of cultural dominance, there's a new kid on the block, an Eastern threat that is taking over our bookshelves, our marketplace, and our hearts. It's no secret that manga and anime are becoming staples in Western culture, and it's no secret that manga is beating out American comic books, and I'm here to find out why. Look at any platform, Google or YouTube, between comic books and manga, and you can see there is a clear winner. When Demon Slayer gets to outsell DC and Marvel combined in sales, there's something that manga is doing that Western comics are failing at. Before continuing, I want to note that I think it's unfair to give credit to anime being the reason for manga beating out comic books due to how successful Marvel movies and DC animated films are. Both manga and comics have their cinematic equivalents that bring in new fans to the scene. And while anime movies like the Demon Slayer movie are breaking box office records, Marvel movies are still clearly dominant in that department. Moving strictly to manga and comic books, there seems to be a clear consensus that manga is doing so well because comic books are not. There's a large decline in comic book sales, and so it's important to see why people think that is. And at first glance, the general frustration with comic books is that they are generally woke. Well-defined characters are being changed for the sole purpose of representation. Having a character that is a person of color or LGBT isn't new by any means, and many comics handle this really well. Yet frustration arises when well-defined characters are changed for the sake of representation, without ever exploring the character's culture. The main thing I have found in my research is that people are okay with new and powerful minority characters, Miles Morales being one of the best examples of the mixed Latino Black American Spider-Man, yet it is well-defined characters changing genders, race, or sexuality that the public, well yeah, you know what the internet does best. In addition, we are seeing the next generation of comic book writers come into the scene that are fairly new with no previous experience despite being the same color or sexuality as the character they are depicting, and it's causing weak writing in their stories. I'm going to go ahead and say I believe the fans that are annoyed about this wokeness are probably a very small yet a very, very vocal group of individuals. We can see this on YouTube and Twitter, yet this cannot be the sole reason as manga has their own form of representation. I feel like this just needs to be stated since if anyone tries to look up why comic book sales are failing, this is probably the main thing that they will see. I personally do not believe this is a big enough reason to turn off so many comic book fans or cause them to turn to manga. This just came up so much in my research that I feel it needed to at least be stated. So then if wokeness isn't the reason, then let's try to look at some others. Oh my lord, comic books are expensive. You're telling me you have to pay $20 to $40 for a volume or for a collection, with the general paperback of manga being like $10? This new Nightwing Volume 1 is $18. It's book 1 of 12. So quick math on that, that is $216 before tax for an entire story. Now let's look at the 3 most popular manga in the US. Jujutsu Kaisen, $9. Demon Slayer, $9. Attack on Titan, $9. Pages in Nightwing, 160 pages. Meanwhile, pages in Demon Slayer are 192 pages. I'm getting more content for more pages, more story for half the cost per book in a series. And I don't know what else to say. Manga is more bang for the buck, while being just as accessible despite having to be imported from across the sea. Comic books deal with an issue that I'm sure drives fans crazy that manga fans don't really have to experience. Imagine you're reading Batman. Man, I love my vigilante whose one rule is that he doesn't kill people, he has high values of justice, and
You've just been drafted into a war.
yeah, this is not my Batman. This happens all the time as stories and writers change, so do the characters, and if the writer goes on a spree that you don't like, you probably won't read it, much less buy it. Manga does not have this issue. One writer, one artist, one overarching story. I get to watch Eren Yeager grow into the character that he is today, and I can read Luffy develop through 1,000 chapters without another writer coming in and changing the entire dynamics of that character. While I can read a series in an anime that will eventually end, comic books are more episodic. The closest thing I can think that for a manga that has this is reading Naruto's journey to becoming the next Hokage and the strongest ninja, only to get his butt kicked and losing his powers almost immediately in Boruto. Yeah, it doesn't feel good. Now imagine that happening every couple years. In addition, manga has this advantage that if I watch an anime and go, wow, this is amazing, I want to learn more, I know exactly where to find it. I gotta go to chapter 1 of the manga and read from there. Now let's say I'm an MCU fan and just finished watching Loki and love the character and want to read more. Well, where does one start? Loki number 1s are everywhere. And if I do start somewhere, that version of Loki could be very different from the Tom Hiddleston's version that I love so much. Now let's do an experiment. Let's go through some of the best-selling comic books and the best-selling manga and see what we can find. Marvel, Spider-Man, Batman, Fantastic Four, Star Wars, something different, and X-Men Marvel. Now let's take a look at the most popular manga. The first few are action, drama slice of life, something at least different than action. Grand Blue, a comedy about scuba diving. Well, I guess that's interesting. Moving on. We have sports, mystery, action, romance, drama, comedy. Moving down a little bit. Drama. I think we see the point. If you're new to comic books and want something other than superheroes, well, good luck. You have to specifically look for those genres, or you're gonna have to look away from two of the biggest publishers in history through Marvel and DC. It's not to say that these genres are not found in comic books or they're specifically manga specific only ones. You just have to kind of look a little bit harder from them. Meanwhile, if I'm new and I'm getting into manga, I can see romance, slice of life, sports, drama, mystery, all within some of the top sellers of manga in the industry, and I can use these stories as starting points to get into the genre and the medium. At the end of the day, it's a clear fact that manga is becoming the new dominant medium for reading, and comic books may need to change something to stay relevant. While some of it may be due to the success in anime in recent years, or the rise of woke American comic books ruining the reader's escapism, these seem more of complaints than actual reasons of why manga is outselling. Consistent stories, consistent characters, more content for less money, and a wide plethora of genres and stories to choose from with easy access. And I do believe American comic books need to change something soon if they want to compete or stay relevant to the rise of Eastern manga in America.